Hi, it's Editing Patsy. Before the video starts, I just want to say I don't really follow any fat liberation or fat activist people on Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. I'm honestly not even really on social media, but just want to give that disclaimer because if I say anything that's out of pocket, please correct me. Please come check me, okay? Like, I am all open to critiques, criticism with this video, but I do ask that you just watch it all the way through before you leave your little hate comment, okay? All right, let's pass it over to Intro Patsy. I need to make it clear that I do not hate the fat acceptance movement. I agree with their sentiments about discrimination against fat people, and there's definitely still a lot of biases and stigmas against them. And I think we really need to work hard as a society to break those down. It's so harmful to judge and criticize someone simply based on their body size because you never know someone's story, you never know what they're going through, or the challenges they're facing. Fat people do not deserve to be hated simply for the body that they live in. That's just plain and simple. The movement has a lot of value and its intentions are pure. However, there are some toxic traits within the community that I'd like to address. Most of the people who make these types of commentary videos are usually thin, straight-sized people or like super fit junkies, and they both perpetuate the stigmas and biases against fat people. They're just shaming them and hating on them because they're fat. They're not saying anything that I think actually speaks volumes to the movement and its true purpose. So as someone who is plus size, chunky, curvy, fat, whatever the hell you want to call it, I can truly appreciate the movement for what it is while also calling out the BS within the community. So enough of the chatting. Let's get right into the video. What is the fat acceptance movement? According to Psychology Today, the movement was formed in 1969 by the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. Its purpose is to counter anti-fat discrimination, as well as problematic societal ideals around beauty, dieting, and health. It's pretty clear that fat people face discrimination in our society, whether it's them being the butt of the joke in media, being criticized and bullied for their appearance online and in person, healthcare discrimination, and so much more. Basically, it seems like a fat person can't exist in this world without being reminded by strangers every day that they're fat. Newsflash, we already fucking know. So you really don't have to keep reminding us, okay? Please and thank you. So let's talk about the harmful effects of fat discrimination. The effects of body shaming often leads to fat people, or just anyone really, feeling depressed and hopeless about themselves and their bodies. It can lead to self-isolation and even lead to increased weight gain for some. While someone may think they're doing the right thing by telling someone how they could lose a few pounds or how they are promoting obesity, they are most likely just making the person feel more defeated and causing them to lean more into their unhealthy habits. Of course, some people take pride in being fat and don't really let these comments affect them. But if you've been a victim of bullying, whether it's online or in person, you can understand how challenging it can be to overcome all of the negative comments. What biases and stigmas do fat people face? The obvious one to address is fat equals weak, which definitely is not the case. It's so easy to pass judgment on someone who doesn't look desirable or conventionally attractive, but I am here to remind y'all that size does not equate to health. And to prove my point, I'm going to show you a few pictures of a few fat people, and you tell me what they all have in common. The answer is, they all competed in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and even won silver and gold medals. Literally the first thing I think of when someone says that fat equals weak or fat equals lazy are athletes just like this. And I'm not here to discuss whether you think these athletes are taking aids to make themselves bigger or stronger. I'm just here to emphasize that every body is different. Now, in case you didn't already know, the BMI is bogus. Not only does it not take into account someone's metabolic health, how much fat versus muscle a person has, along with how fat is distributed throughout one's body, the BMI is just rooted in racism. Oh my god, what a shocker. Patsy's mentioning racism 2 videos in a row? Well, what do you expect? I'm black. Anyway, that's besides the point. The BMI, or the body mass index, measures a person's height and weight to determine one's body fatness. The CDC points out that the BMI does not indicate the healthiness of one's body, but some people still seem to look at this as the one truth for someone's health. BMI came about during the boom of eugenics during the late 19th to mid 20th century. The main goal of eugenics was to improve the genetic quality of a human population, which resulted in these scientists, excluding people seen as inferior and only focusing on those seen as superior. The history around this guy, who was born during the rise of eugenics, is a great example of how harmful these ideologies can be to our society. For example, a zoologist named Charles Davenport believed that low types of people were prone to obesity and believed that Chinese and Jewish people fit this criteria. This notion was soon adopted by insurance companies, and no one addressed the fact that race did not play a role when looking at someone's height and weight. It's also important to point out that most of these people who had health insurance during this time were white, which only emphasized the point that whiteness was superior, and everyone's health had to abide by these standards. It wasn't until after the Holocaust ended that eugenics started to be questioned by some post-war scientists, but that did not stop the unfair assumptions that perfect health was attributed by white standards. Almost 80 years after this realization, fat phobia still thrives and affects people of all races, including white folks. Now, I hope after everything I just shared, it would be quite obvious why the fat acceptance movement is valid and should have a place in this world. So now it's time to answer the question, how is the fat acceptance community online toxic? If you ask me, the fat acceptance community online is pretty exclusionary. Now, you might think that's pretty obvious since this movement literally centers around one group of people, but from what I've seen, they can be pretty malicious to other fat folks who cater to their health. From my understanding, fat acceptance is supposed to break down biases against fat people and alleviate the discrimination fat people face on a daily basis. But from what I've seen online, mainly TikTok, fat influencers don't tend to their health at all, and they ostracize any fat person who wants to make a change to their lifestyle that may result in weight loss. It's almost like they twisted the original message of the movement to fit what they believe fat acceptance should be, and I think some parts of that are pretty toxic. I agree that a person usually does not need to lose weight in order to become healthy. And as I pointed out earlier, there are so many athletes and active people who don't fit the stereotypical build of a healthy or fit person. But it doesn't mean that every person who does these actions are trying to lose weight, nor should they be expected to. I say all of this to say, I don't think it's fair for these fat influencers to judge people for doing something to better themselves, whether that's watching what they're eating or being more active, because they definitely would not want to be criticized for doing the exact opposite. A prime example of how these fat influencers attack other fat people is Lizzo. Lizzo is an award-winning singer and flutist who grew to mainstream celebrity status in 2019 after releasing her third album, 'Cause I Love You. A lot of people did not appreciate that a fat girl was getting mainstream representation, and many people expressed their disgust for having to witness a glimpse of her work or even acknowledge her existence. Because of the adverse reactions people were having to Lizzo's rise in fame, I think it's a clear indication as to why the fat acceptance movement exists. Lizzo is a talented singer, and most of the people who criticize her aren't even referring to her music. It's all about her looks. Well, and the allegations. But how is that shit fair? Lizzo quickly became the face of body positivity and fat acceptance. And yes, there is a clear difference between the two. Feel free to look it up once you're done watching this. She preaches self-love and is unapologetically herself, which are traits that I can admire. Those things can be hard for anyone of any size, so imagine what those in the limelight experience. Because of this, people who aren't her fans will only talk about Lizzo if it has something to do about her weight. Now, would you believe me if I said fat influencers also shame Lizzo for her body? Yeah, it just doesn't really make sense, does it? In 2020, Lizzo announced to her followers on TikTok that she was becoming vegan and would even share her favorite plant-based recipes. Prior to being vegan, Lizzo was a vegetarian for 7 years and decided to cut out all animal products simply just to make herself feel better. She told Vanity Fair that she didn't make this change to lose weight, but to become healthier. In addition to her new vegan lifestyle, Lizzo was also sharing her workouts on TikTok, which her fans seem to enjoy overall. I think it's totally fair for Lizzo to make these lifestyle changes. Like, hello, she's a whole ass performer. She was being honest with herself about not, feeling comfortable in how she felt, and she wanted to make a change to fix that. But a lot of fat TikTokers were not having this. Now, I promise, just believe me when I say that I remember that there were so many fat influencers calling out Lizzo when she first announced that she was vegan and she's posting these workout videos, because they were saying, how is she supposed to be the fat acceptance poster child if she is also promoting healthy eating and working out. It's so hard to find those videos because if you look up any controversies about Lizzo, they are all mainly about the allegations that came up last year. But as a way to still back up my point that fat influencers are exclusionary to other fat people, I found countless TikToks of fat folks who decided to go on a health or fitness journey, and for a lack of a better word, they were shunned from the community for wanting to become healthier. I think this TikTok from Nadia Zanel, I think that's how you say her name, does a good job of explaining how the fat acceptance community is really quick to switch up on you if you decide to become healthy or whatever.
From the TikTokers and influencers about, weight loss journeys and them losing the weight and them being, treated completely different. And as a woman who has been in a fat body all her life, I know that is to be expected, but I never had to go through it because I've been fat. But anyways, I know that is to be expected of like outside people, but like your people, your circle treating you differently. Should I ever lose all the weight? Should the behind me out here in the stomach, y'all act new, and I'm a factory reset on y'all. Don't. That ain't what the Lord wants for us. That ain't what come on. Amen, somebody. Don't do it.
This one comment under Nadia's video says, "They won't hate on you. I swear that's how it goes." She replies and says, "Joke aside, I trust my people though. I feel like if anything, it's going to be people I'm not as close with." Which, she's being very optimistic, being very positive. But from what I've seen, these people do not care. It could be your bestie, it could be your homie. But as soon as you decide to say, I want to lose weight or I want to do something to better my health and whatever, you're seen as anti-fat and all these things. Another creator on TikTok posts about how she felt like the fat positivity community saved her when she was fat, but then she lost a lot of weight and then she was ostracized because she lost a lot of weight. This one comment says, "Taking control of your health should never be looked down upon. You did a great thing and it should be celebrated." Which I definitely agree. I think this person, I don't know much about her, but she clearly was in a place where she wanted to make changes to better herself, and she did that. And I think that in itself should be appreciated and celebrated. Where I think it can be toxic is just assuming that somebody like lost weight in a healthy way. That can be really toxic. For example, if you have a bigger friend, you haven't seen them in a while, and now that you see that they're skinny, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, like, how did you lose the weight? You look so good." Not really realizing that that person might have starved themselves. They might have been on drugs. They might have done totally unhealthy things to get to the size that they're at. But in circumstances like this, fat people who are actively making changes to be healthier, they are just automatically tossed to the side. The fat acceptance community wants nothing to do with them. Another comment reads, "It's fine for people to do what they want with their bodies, but a lot of folks find intentional weight loss triggering, so unfollowing protects their space. Also, fat liberation is about way more than self-love. It's about inclusivity, access, and removing discrimination." Yes, clearly, yes, that is the whole point of fat acceptance. It's about breaking down stigmas, alleviating discrimination for fat people, and just making safe spaces for them. It really shouldn't be about, you can't lose weight, you can't do things about yourself, all that. Like, obviously, you should love yourself. You should want to do things that make you happy. But tearing down someone who is actively working on themselves and is doing things to make themselves healthier, I think is just pretty hypocritical. You can find some of these fat TikTokers saying, even though they're fat, they're still perfectly healthy. Now, I do agree that someone's health should not be assumed by their size, but I do think there's an exception to people who fit the extreme. Allow me to explain further. First, let's answer the question, what makes a person healthy? According to Verywell Health, the 7 factors that promote a healthy lifestyle are getting a good amount of sleep, eating balanced meals, making time for exercise, keeping a healthy body weight. However, they do note that the BMI is outdated, but it's still used to project potential health concerns. Avoiding smoking or chewing tobacco, avoiding or limiting alcohol intake, and managing mental health. You may ask, why do I bring this up? Well, who's to say that someone that looks like Lizzo isn't doing these things most days? Exactly, you can't. Just like how you can't assume that just because someone is skinny, they're doing these 7 things most of the time. Look, the way the world is set up right now and the way life be lifing these days, I know for a fact that a lot of us are just trying to make it another day, so prioritizing a healthy lifestyle can certainly be quite the challenge. But if your health is at a point where it's debilitating and impacting your daily life in major ways, then I believe that's when changes should be made to better yourself. I know. I probably sound hypocritical as fuck, but trust me, there is a valid point I'm trying to make here. I'm not saying that fat people who categorize themselves as large fat, super fat, infinite fat, or even death fat don't deserve to live their lives and post what they want online. As long as they're not hurting anyone or being offensive, I say let them rock out. We shouldn't be hating on someone who's a size 5 or 6X simply for their size. They deserve to enjoy life just like anyone else. But my major grief with this community is not recognizing the real risks of being so fat. Just like how there are real risks with being too small or too thin, health risks from being fat should not be ignored. And it seems like a lot of these fat influencers are choosing to write the narrative that being super fat is completely healthy and they don't need to cater to their health at all, which has proven to be dangerous to their community. Just exactly how is this dangerous? Well, they're losing community members way too soon. In December 2022, a TikToker by the name of Brittany, also known as Sick and Tired of Waiting, posted a video about how she felt tired of binge eating, not performing proper self-care, and hoped it wasn't too late for her. She describes how standing to check herself into urgent care was tough because she felt like her legs were going to give out, and all she wanted to do was sit in the chair behind her. She ends the video by saying she hopes the video can be a warning to other fat people that if they don't take care of their health and continue to gain weight, their health will decline and simple everyday things will become so hard. It's a super sad video to watch because you can see how defeated she is and how truly she wants other fat people to realize that they might be cutting their life short if they're ignoring their health. Brittany passed away January 2nd, 2023 at the age of 28. In Brittany's case, she recognized that she was dealing with a food addiction, or her content showed her journey to recovery while embracing her body. But sadly, it was too late. Many fat influencers don't even admit that there are opportunities for them to better their health. Shit, there's opportunities for us all to improve our health. I'm not even saying these fat people should lose 100+ pounds or should even lose weight at all, but just to be aware how their lifestyle directly affects their health and the risks that could come along with it. Just like someone who drinks a liter of liquor every day isn't healthy, they should want to make changes to better themselves, but of course it's their life and only they can make changes for themselves. Before I go, I'll leave you with this. I still believe that the fat acceptance community is a positive thing and has been healing for so many bigger people. I do not want to undermine how much the movement has helped fat people to feel worthy, loved, and accept themselves for who they are, which is truly beautiful. I just want these influencers to recognize how harmful it can be to act like there's no health risks at all for being fat. Everyone is on their journey, and we are all trying the best that we can. At the end of the day, I just want to see us all live to our fullest potential while being safe. Remember to lead each day with an open heart and to have compassion for those around you. It can really go a long way.